Faisal Talpur here once again. I'm going to share some very good deep insights today on this video. So let me ask you to perhaps share it and like it if you do like the video, that is. But do share it, because if you think of anybody who you think can benefit from this, please do share the video. It's one of the most frequently asked questions that I get from the people I end up speaking to. And this I have seen in any sector, in any industry, in any community. With my businesses, we have worked with roughly about 20 different nations, right? So it's a question which I have always been, asked or has been posed. And the question is, why do some of these businesses become these massive, huge companies, and why majority of the businesses just end up being small companies? So, to share some very basic statistics with you, there are about 5.5 million businesses registered in UK. I mean, my stats are 2 years old, by the way. So roughly about 5.5 million businesses, and 73 to 74% of them are just one-man bands. Okay. And then and that in itself is shocking. You would have thought that majority of the businesses are big, but no. I mean, 73 to 74% of the businesses are just one-man bands. That is, they do not even employ a second person, right? And then about and then you have got the second segment, which is businesses that employ up to 9 to 10 people in their business. That constitutes about 99% of the rest of the businesses. So out of the 5.5 million businesses, only 7,000 businesses are big companies. Okay, these are the big boys, the conglomerates, if you want to call it, or the big enterprises. Out of the rest of them, only 33,000 businesses are classed as SMEs, which is small to medium enterprises, right? Anyway, so the fact, without going into too much detail with the statistics, the point here that I'm trying to make is that majority of the businesses never grow beyond being a one-man band, or even if they do grow and become bigger than one-man band, you are looking at typically 8 to 10 people company. So the question that I get asked is that, why is that? I mean, what is the real difference? What are we doing wrong, or what are we not doing right? And why most of the businesses don't grow? Is it the mindset? Is it the effort? What is the real secret? So I'll share with you the real reason why most of the businesses don't end up becoming big. Business is not very complex. It's a very easy thing to do. But we, in our minds and in our behavior and how we conduct business, we make it very, very difficult. Okay. However, just like any good recipe, so if you are a foodie and if you like to eat good food, you know that if you mess up the ingredients, right, if you mess up the base, you will not end up with a delicious dish. Okay, you will not end up with something which is very appetizing. Same is exactly the case with business, right? Most of the people who come into business thinking it will be very easy for them to pull off something, right? That's not necessarily a bad approach. That's not necessarily a bad thinking. It's good thinking. It's positive thinking. However, what they miss out on is the underlying essential factors which you do need to make that business happen. Okay. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I struggled very hard, and it was very, very difficult for me to set up my businesses when I came into business 13 years ago. And it was almost it was a very arduous journey, whereby I almost faced every single challenge before I could see or surface up from all the troubles that I was experiencing. So I had to turn it into a study. I had to turn it into research. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Why is nothing working? Why is it that everything that I'm trying to do, right, is going against me when I'm putting in the hard work, I'm putting in the effort, I'm putting in the time, the energy, I'm putting in the money, I'm doing everything from my side, and it's still not working? What am I doing wrong? Okay. And I took this very seriously, and it dawned on me that what I was doing and what I was trying to touch base on and what I was trying to build my business on was very, very, very fundamentally wrong. Okay. um, Typically, there are there are 250 factors that you need to make your company into this big organization. 250 factors, guys. Okay. And what differentiates most of the entrepreneurs these days, or I suppose, businessmen, businesswomen these days, is that when we are running our businesses, we barely go beyond 5 or 10 or maximum 15 factors, right? And in fact, I challenge you to do this exercise, right? Just think, if you are in business already, or if you're thinking of getting into business, just think of all the factors that you think you will need to run a successful business. I am almost certain your list will not go beyond 15 of those factors. But what then differentiates these small companies, from the big companies, who have really made it big? I'm talking about the likes of Facebooks, the LinkedIns, the Googles of the world, the Johnsons and Johnsons of the world. Are those underlying 250 factors. They have got those components right. They've got those elements right. They've got the basic right. They've got the house in order, right? And if you do not have the basic fundamentals in place, right? So say, for example, if I can give you an analogy, let's say you want to construct a tower block, which is going to be 50 floors, right? If you do not get the basement, or the underlying infrastructure strong enough, right, you will never be able to build the tower block on top of it, right? um, and this is where we fail. Okay. Which is why the businesses don't go beyond 5 people, 10 people, or on average you're looking at 2 million pound turnover, 3 million pound turnover. I'm looking at, that is, for a lot of businesses, that's quite a good turnover, right? So I'm going to give you a few of those factors which are needed. I cannot go through 250 factors with you on this video. So I'm just going to give you the most essential ones. And funnily enough, actually, they are the most obvious ones, right? However, we still fail to get these obvious ones right. Okay. Um, One of the most important factor is the need in the market. Okay. So whatever you're trying to sell, whatever you're trying to, I suppose, produce and sell, or whether it's a service, whether it's a product, or if you're in the manufacturing game, whatever that is, right, you have to have the need in the market. And the bigger the need, the bigger your business will grow naturally, right? um, but then there are other essential components that come into play, which I'm going to talk about. But the very basic factor to consider here is that the amount and the size of your business, right, is directly proportional to the need in the marketplace, right? So the big that need is, the big the business is going to become. However, right, there is a caveat. That need then is superseded, right, by something what we call the provision saturation. It's my own word. I just came up with the word to explain to myself, how can you see how many people are serving that need. So say, for example, just to keep the first formula, or the first element of the formula in mind, which is the need, you can turn around and say, listen, everybody needs to eat. Food is a big industry, right? but my restaurant is struggling to survive. So your formula doesn't work, Faisal, right? You can turn around and say, everybody has got the need to wear clothes, right? And why are then most of the people in the clothes industry, why are they still struggling? That's where the second component of the formula comes into place, which is the provision saturation, okay? Which means how many people are trying to service or fulfill that need, okay? So let's say if that need is to, let's say 1 million products whatever, let's say a product, 1 million pieces of a particular product would satisfy that need, right? If you have got 100,000 people in that business trying to service that 1 million pieces of product, naturally there's a super saturation, and you are going to struggle to make money in that market, right? The other thing then becomes, or the third part of the equation then is, I suppose, so once one is the need, second is you have to understand how many people are trying to service that need. Obviously, the less people so the bigger the need and the less people who are serving the need, right? You have got a gap in the market. That's where you can insert yourself, right? Force yourself, if you want to, and service that market, right? The third one is your reach. Okay. This is one of the biggest problem as well with businesses. They fail to understand whether they will be able to reach, that marketplace, right? So let's say there is a need. Now I'll give you an example. Let's say there is a need in the middle of a Sahara desert, right? And you have got to travel, 200 miles into the desert to be able to service that need, right? Your reach is simply not good enough, is never going to work, right? Uh, some people also call it the penetration in the marketplace, right? So let's say the market is, and again, this also depends. So let's say your market is massive, it's big, but it's scattered around different parts of the world. So there are pockets. There are, some people or some aspects, or some people in Nigeria, some people in, let's say, Pakistan, some people in Cyprus. So, they are distributed in different parts of the world, and you have got to, let's say, service all the different people. Can you reach them easily to service that need? Okay. So that is the third part of the equation, which you have got to consider, right? If you're a local restaurant, you have got a different challenge. If you are a restaurant franchise, you've got a different challenge, right? And that applies to, again, any business, right? The fourth thing that you cannot ignore, and you should not ignore, is your product, of course, right? So that product has got to be, as they say in English, the silver bullet, right? It has to be the optimum and the perfect solution to satisfy the marketplace beyond their imagination. So your product should not just be good enough, right? It should be beyond, and it should be meeting not only meeting the expectations, but it should, be beyond the expectations of your customers, right? It should surprise them. It should delight them, right? It should have that shock and awe factor, right? One of the ways to perceive this is that if you are charging £100 for your product, it really should look like a £500 product, or it should do the job as if it was a £500 product. Okay, that's just one simple method of how you build value in a product. So it has to look, it has to play the part way more than what it is worth, right, in terms of money. Okay, so your product has to have the ideal fit for the marketplace when you are servicing that marketplace. Okay, and you have got to work on the product to make it literally the best thing since sliced bread, because let's face it, every market is a competitive market these days, right? And if you are not selling something which is extremely exceptionally good, you do not stand a chance of surviving in that market. Okay, let's move on. Number 5 is marketing. Now, again, from my point of view, if I was to literally put these in priority, right, I would literally put this number 3. So you've got the need, you've got the product, and you've got the marketing. If you just focus on these 3 elements, and your marketing, by the way, has got to be absolutely exceptional, right? We all know that some of the biggest brands are not necessarily the best brands or the best products in the world. Okay, but we also know that when we are thinking of, consuming, something from that particular industry or that particular type, right, those are the brands which come right on the top. Okay, so marketing has to be, I mean, again, there's so many people who do not even have a marketing, so many businesses who do not even have a marketing budget. That is shocking and surprising, right? Marketing budget is like the fuel that you need to have to run your business. Okay, and the 6th factor, I suppose, is delivery and deliverability. Okay, you have to be able to satisfy your customers with exactly what they need, how they need it, and what their expectations are. If you can go beyond their expectations, you are doing a fantastic job, right? Now, I repeat very quickly. So the main difference which makes a small business into a big business is, like I said, these 250 factors. We discount all these factors and we literally barely look at maybe 10 or maximum 15 factors, right? Which is why a small business ends up being a small business and never turns into a massive organization. It's not about funding, it's not about money. There are a lot of other things at play here, right? Part of the equation. But the 5 or 6 factors what I've discussed with you once again is the need, the provision saturation in the marketplace, your reach in the marketplace, again, extremely important. The product, the quality of the product has to be a perfect fit for what your market is looking for. And marketing itself, your marketing has got to be impeccable, right? No two ways about that. And the last one is delivery and deliverability of the product as per your client's expectations. And if you have any comments, please feel free to share. If you like this video, do press the like button, and I'll be more than happy to listen to any comments if you guys have got. And also, most importantly, if you feel that there is anything that you would like me to address in terms of business growth or business problems and what have you, I'll be more than happy to cover that in the next video. Feel free to share, feel free to like. If you are watching this on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe. Once again, I hope today's video has added some value. Thank you very much for now. Adios.